There are moments in life when the greatest danger isn't what you can see. It's what you're ignoring. The pressure you're feeling, the strange resistance around you, the sudden changes, the people revealing their true intentions. These can become powerful signals to wake up, sharpen your mind, and protect your future. Your ancestors don't have to literally scream for their legacy to speak through you. Their survival, their sacrifices, and everything they endured can become the voice inside you saying, "Wake up, stand strong, do not surrender." The first battle is awareness. Before you can protect your peace, your purpose, your future, or the life you're trying to build, you have to become conscious of what is happening around you and, more importantly, what is happening within you. Too many people don't recognize danger until it has already changed their lives. They ignore the small signs, dismiss their instincts, tolerate repeated disrespect, and continue walking towards situations that have already shown them what they are. But you don't have to live that way. You can learn to notice what others overlook. Your ancestors survived because they understood something fundamental. Survival requires awareness. They watched the environment. They noticed changes. They learned from experience. They understood that ignoring a warning could have consequences. You can carry that same principle into your modern life. Your dangers may not look like the dangers they faced, but the need for awareness hasn't disappeared. Today, the threats may come through distraction, manipulation, toxic relationships, destructive habits, financial irresponsibility, negative thinking, or people who constantly pull you away from your purpose. Wake up to the patterns. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, don't pretend it was an accident every time. If something constantly destroys your confidence, don't keep calling it normal. If a habit repeatedly steals your time and leaves you feeling empty, stop pretending it isn't costing you anything. If you're surrounded by people who celebrate your failures but become uncomfortable when you succeed, pay attention. Awareness doesn't mean becoming suspicious of everyone. It means becoming honest with yourself. There's a difference between fear and intuition. Fear can make you imagine threats that don't exist. Awareness allows you to observe what actually exists. Don't create enemies where there are none, but don't ignore reality simply because accepting it is uncomfortable. Sometimes your life changes when you finally admit what you've been avoiding. You already know which conversations leave you exhausted. You already know which environments make you smaller. You already know which habits keep you stuck. You already know where you're making excuses. The question isn't whether you know. The question is whether you're willing to act on what you know. Stop waiting for a dramatic warning. Sometimes the warning is your lack of peace. Sometimes it's the repeated failure of the same situation. Sometimes it's the feeling that you're moving farther away from the person you want to become. And sometimes the warning is simply the realization that you've been giving your energy to everything except your own future. You don't need to panic. You need to become precise. Observe before reacting. Listen before speaking. Think before trusting. Study before deciding. Give yourself enough distance to see situations clearly instead of allowing emotions to control every decision. Your attention is one of your greatest resources. Whoever controls your attention can influence your direction. That's why you cannot afford to spend every day consumed by drama arguments, gossip, comparison, and distractions. There is a different version of you waiting on the other side of awareness. The version who notices the pattern, learns the lesson, and changes direction before the damage becomes permanent. So, wake up, look closer, listen carefully, learn from what life keeps repeating. You don't need to fear what is coming. You need to become prepared for whatever comes. The moment you stop ignoring the signals and start respecting the lessons, you take back control. And that is where your transformation begins. A dangerous attack doesn't always arrive looking like an enemy. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as a thought, a habit, a conversation, a distraction, or a voice that slowly convinces you that you're not capable of becoming who you were meant to be. The greatest battles are often invisible because they happen inside your mind. That's why protecting your mind is not weakness. It is preparation. It is discipline. It is survival. Think about how easily your attention can be stolen. You wake up with goals, but before you even get out of bed, you're consuming other people's opinions, arguments, lifestyles, successes, failures, and problems. Hours disappear. Your mind becomes crowded with information that has nothing to do with your purpose. Then you wonder why you feel exhausted before the day has even begun. You have to become selective. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your emotional reaction. Not every person deserves unlimited access to your energy. Not every problem belongs to you. Your mind is the place where your future is built. Every decision begins there. Every goal begins there. Every transformation begins with a thought that says, I can become more. But if your mind is constantly filled with negativity, fear, comparison, and doubt, it becomes difficult to hear that voice. That's why you have to protect what enters your mental space. Be careful about what you repeatedly watch. Be careful about the conversations you constantly participate in. Be careful about people who make negativity their identity. If someone spends every day convincing you that nothing will work, eventually you may start believing them. Not because they were right, but because you heard the message too many times. Repetition is powerful, so repeat something better. Remind yourself that setbacks are not permanent. Remind yourself that failure is information. Remind yourself that another person's success doesn't reduce your potential. Remind yourself that your past does not have to dictate your future. Your ancestors survived difficult chapters without knowing how their story would end. You can honor that resilience by refusing to let temporary circumstances define your entire identity. And protecting your mind doesn't mean pretending everything is positive. Real strength requires honesty. If something is wrong, acknowledge it. If you made a mistake, admit it. If you need to change, change. But don't turn one bad moment into a permanent belief that your life is doomed. Never confuse a difficult season with a destroyed future. You are allowed to have bad days without becoming a negative person. You are allowed to struggle without believing you're weak. You are allowed to rest without believing you've failed. Sometimes protecting your mind means stepping away. Step away from the arguments. Step away from the endless scrolling. Step away from the person who constantly provokes you. Step away from the environment that keeps pulling you backward. Distance can create clarity, and clarity creates better decisions. You don't have to fight every voice around you. You don't have to prove your worth to everyone. You don't have to explain your vision to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. Protect your peace because your peace protects your focus. Protect your focus because your focus protects your progress. And protect your mind because your mind is where the next version of you is being created. There will always be noise. There will always be criticism. There will always be people who doubt you. Let them talk. Your responsibility is not to control the noise. Your responsibility is to control what you allow the noise to become inside you. Stand guard over your thoughts. Choose your influences carefully. Feed your mind with discipline, knowledge, courage, and purpose. Because when your mind becomes strong, external chaos loses its ability to control you. And when you become mentally unshakable, the things that once intimidated you begin to look exactly like what they always were. Challenges waiting for you to rise above them. Not every battle deserves your energy. This is one of the hardest truths to accept. Because when someone disrespects you, misunderstands you, challenges you, or tries to provoke you, your first instinct may be to respond. You want to defend yourself. You want to explain your side. You want them to understand what they did wrong. But sometimes, the moment you react emotionally, you hand another person control over your peace. Strength is not responding to everything. There will always be someone who wants your attention. Someone wants to pull you into an argument. Someone wants to test your patience. Someone wants to make you prove yourself. And if you accept every invitation to conflict, you will spend your life fighting battles that never belong to you. Learn to pause. Before you respond, ask yourself, will this matter a week from now? Will this help me become stronger? Will this protect my future? Or am I simply reacting because my emotions were triggered? That pause can change everything. You don't have to answer immediately. You don't have to defend every decision. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. You don't have to chase people who deliberately walk away. Sometimes silence isn't surrender. Sometimes silence is evidence that you finally learned the value of your energy. Your attention is limited. Your time is limited. Your emotional strength is limited. Why waste those resources trying to convince someone who has already decided not to understand you? Let people have their opinions. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them create stories about you. You know what you're building. You know what you've survived. You know how hard you've worked to become the person you are becoming. You don't need every spectator to approve of the journey. There is tremendous power in refusing to be controlled by provocation. When someone realizes they cannot make you lose your temper, they lose one of the easiest ways to manipulate you. When they discover that their insults don't control your confidence, their words become powerless. This doesn't mean you should tolerate genuine harm or allow people to violate your boundaries. It means you learn the difference between protection and pointless conflict. Protect yourself when protection is necessary. Speak when speaking matters. Walk away when walking away is wiser. And fight only when the battle is worthy of what it will cost you. Some people want you distracted because a distracted person is easier to control. They want you arguing while they continue moving forward. They want you emotionally exhausted while they remain comfortable. Don't give them that advantage. Your greatest revenge isn't always proving someone wrong. Sometimes it's becoming so focused on your purpose that their opinion becomes irrelevant. Imagine what would happen if you stopped spending hours thinking about who doesn't like you and started spending those hours building your future. Imagine if you stopped rehearsing arguments in your head and started rehearsing the skills you need to succeed. Imagine if you stopped trying to win every conversation and started trying to win control over yourself. That's real power. You don't need to become aggressive to become strong. You need discipline. The strongest person isn't the one who can destroy everyone who challenges them. The strongest person is the one who has the power to react but chooses the response that serves their future. So choose carefully. Not every message needs a reply. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every door needs to be reopened. Not every battle needs your presence. Protect your energy. Protect your direction. Protect your peace. Because while other people are busy trying to pull you into battles that don't matter, your life is waiting for you to build something that does. Walk away from unnecessary chaos. Keep your eyes on the mission. Let your results speak where your arguments never could. And remember, sometimes the most powerful move you can make is simply refusing to play the game. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human life. It can stop you before you begin, convince you to stay where you're unhappy, and make you believe that the unknown is more dangerous than the life you're already living. But fear doesn't always mean you should turn around. Sometimes fear is standing at the exact doorway you need to walk through. You may be afraid of failure. You may be afraid of rejection. You may be afraid that people will laugh when you pursue something bigger. You may be afraid that you'll give everything you have and still fall short. But ask yourself this: what happens if you allow that fear to make every decision for you? You stay exactly where you are. The opportunity passes. The dream remains unfinished. And eventually you may realize that the greatest thing holding you back wasn't failure. It was your fear of experiencing it. You have to learn how to move while you're afraid. Courage doesn't mean you feel no fear. Courage means fear is present, but it doesn't control your direction. You can be nervous and still take the step. You can doubt yourself and still prepare. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. That's how fear becomes fuel. If you're afraid you're not good enough, don't surrender. Improve yourself. Learn something new. Practice. Study. Build your skills. If you're afraid you're unprepared, prepare harder. If you're afraid you'll fail, create a plan that allows you to learn from failure. If you're afraid people will judge you, remember that people will have opinions, whether you succeed or fail. You might as well give them something worth talking about. Fear becomes dangerous when you treat it like a prophecy. Just because you're afraid something might happen doesn't mean it will happen. Your mind can create disasters that reality never produces. That's why you have to separate possibility from certainty. Maybe you will fail. Maybe someone will reject you. Maybe the plan won't work. But maybe you'll succeed. Maybe you'll discover an ability you didn't know you had. Maybe the failure will teach you the exact lesson you needed. You cannot know until you move. Your ancestors lived with uncertainty too. They didn't have guarantees about tomorrow. Yet they continued, they adapted, they endured, they built lives despite uncertainty. You don't need certainty to begin. You need commitment. There will be moments when your confidence disappears. There will be mornings when motivation feels non-existent. There will be days when your progress seems invisible. Those are the moments when discipline matters most. Don't wait until you're fearless. Move while your hands are shaking. Move while your confidence is imperfect. Move while you still have questions. Because every time you act despite fear, you teach your mind something important. Fear does not command me. That lesson changes you. The next time fear appears, don't immediately ask, how do I escape this? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? Maybe it's teaching you to prepare. Maybe it's teaching you to set boundaries. Maybe it's teaching you to stop depending on approval. Maybe it's teaching you that you're capable of more than you believed. Fear can be a warning, but it can also be a doorway. Use wisdom. Don't take reckless risks or ignore genuine danger. But don't allow imaginary disasters to keep you trapped in a life you have outgrown. Turn your fear into preparation. Turn your uncertainty into curiosity. Turn your setbacks into lessons. Turn your pressure into discipline. And turn your pain into purpose. One day, you'll look back and realize something powerful. The thing you were afraid to face became the thing that made you stronger. So stand up. Take the next step. You don't have to conquer your entire future today. Just refuse to let fear decide what you're allowed to become. Your future is bigger than your fear. And the moment you understand that, the attack loses its power, because the strongest version of you is no longer running from the darkness. You're walking through it. Maybe the greatest message isn't that your ancestors are warning you. Maybe the deeper message is that you are becoming the answer to everything they survived. Think about the generations that came before you. They faced uncertainty, sacrifice, disappointment, limitation, and circumstances they could not control. They didn't know what your life would look like. They couldn't see the opportunities you would have. But their story continued until it eventually reached you. And now you have a choice. You can inherit the pain without questioning it, or you can inherit the strength and build something different. You can become the person who breaks the pattern. Breaking the pattern doesn't mean pretending your past never happened. It means refusing to let the past become a permanent sentence. It means looking at the habits, beliefs, fears, and limitations you've inherited and asking yourself whether they still belong in your future. Maybe you've watched people around you give up whenever life became difficult. You don't have to. Maybe you learned to stay silent because speaking up caused conflict. You can learn healthy boundaries. Maybe you were taught that dreaming too big was dangerous. You can learn to think bigger. Maybe you've seen failure treated like shame. You can learn to treat failure as information. The future changes when one person decides that the old pattern ends here. That person can be you. You don't need to become perfect. You don't need to fix everything overnight. Transformation begins with small decisions repeated consistently. Wake up earlier. Keep your promises to yourself. Learn instead of making excuses. Save instead of wasting everything. Build instead of complaining. Walk away from what destroys your focus. Choose people who encourage growth. Take responsibility for your decisions. These actions may look small, but small actions repeated over time can completely change the direction of a life. Your ancestors may have survived circumstances you will never experience. Your challenge may be different. Your battlefield may be your discipline, your mindset, your choices, your relationships, your habits, and your ability to remain focused in a world designed to distract you. You don't honor those who came before you by living in fear. You honor them by living with courage. You honor their sacrifices by refusing to waste your opportunities. You honor their struggles by becoming stronger because of what they endured. And most importantly, you honor your future by refusing to pass unnecessary pain forward. Imagine becoming the person your future family looks back on with gratitude, the person who decided to change everything, the person who stopped repeating destructive patterns, the person who chose discipline over excuses, the person who chose courage over fear, the person who decided that survival wasn't enough anymore, that it was time to build. That is the legacy you can create. You may not control where your story began, but you have influence over where it goes next. Your past may explain you, but it doesn't have to define you. Your circumstances may challenge you, but they don't have to control you. Your mistakes may have shaped you, but they don't have to become your identity. You are still writing the next chapter. So don't wait for someone to rescue you. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait until you feel completely ready. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start today. Become more disciplined than yesterday. Become more aware than yesterday. Become more courageous than yesterday. Become more intentional than yesterday. One day you'll realize that the greatest danger wasn't some mysterious force waiting in the shadows. It was the possibility of living beneath your potential and allowing old patterns to determine your future. And you defeated that danger by waking up, or by choosing yourself, by choosing growth, by choosing purpose, by choosing to become the generation that changes the direction of the story. The people who came before you had their chapter, you have yours. Write it with courage. Build something meaningful. Break what needs to be broken. Protect what deserves protection. And create a future so powerful that the struggles of the past become proof of how far you came. You are not here merely to repeat history. You are here to learn from it and then rise beyond it.